Today's video is going to be a really fun video. If you don't know this about me, I recently created an app called Estymates that basically replaces a real job, a $60,000 per year job of an estimation person for design studios. Now, this project got me the idea of actually creating this video. And in this video, we are going to go through how to approach such a project. So basically how to replace a job with an AI system, how to go from idea all the way to building and deploying the system. More than that, I'm going to walk you through what was my approach with Estymates and what tools I've used, how I brainstormed and sketched everything. It is going to be just a fun and insightful video. And my goal is that at the end of the video, you are going to be able to do the exact same thing for other jobs, basically replace jobs in your business or in other people's businesses. So let's get to it. Right now, I'm going to walk you through a bit my thinking process when it comes to building that specific app, specifically in this example for Estymates, the app that I've built. And the first question that I want to understand really well is, what does an estimation person do? Or in your case, what does that specific job do? That specific person that does the job does, and he answers to these questions, an estimation person. First of all, how long will this project take? How much will it cost? And how do we explain this to the client? These are the three questions this specific job answers, right? And for how long will this project take? Basically, he breaks down the tasks in design, development, testing, whatever. He adds time for each one, like design takes 2 weeks, development 3 weeks, testing 1 week, so on and so forth. So basically the final output is to create a project schedule for this specific question. For the second question, how much will it cost? He basically looks at people's rates. Let's say the designer has a rate of $50 per hour, the developer $70 per hour, and he multiplies them by hours. So basically 40 hours times $50 is $2,000. So the final output here would be a budget estimate. And then we have the third question, which would be, how do we explain this to the client? What he does here, he combines the timeline and the cost. This is what we'll deliver, when, and for how much. He formats it nicely for the client, basically a easy to read PDF or doc. And the final output would be a proposal document. So if we are going to zoom out a bit, an estimation person does these three things really well. He creates a project schedule, he creates a budget estimate, and then he puts them all into one place by creating a proposal document. Now that I have answered this question, I know exactly what my direction is with this app. I know that this app has to be able to create a project schedule, a budget estimate, and then package everything into a proposal. Now, this role is time-consuming, repetitive, and manual. And this basically tells us that we could replace this job with an AI system because it could do a better job faster and cheaper. Why? Because there are a lot of spreadsheets involved. There's a lot of copy pasting informations into proposals, and there's a lot of guessing based on past projects. And if you think about it, about this specific role, right, when it comes to estimating something, you are guessing. An estimation is a guess that you do about pricing, about timing. And you basically do these estimations based on some data that you have from the past. And we already know this, that AI basically crunches data way more than humans and way better. So basically now we have a validation of the idea. We know that we could create an AI system that would do a better job, if not the same job as a human person, right? Now, in short, if you think about it, an estimation person is a combination of basically two tools, a project calculator and a proposal maker. Now that we know this, and now that we have a correlation of some tools with the job itself, we can create some ideas on how the app should look like and function, right? Now, our goal is that we want to create a system that does all of these things automatically. And what do we need? Usually for AI systems, we need three things. We need a trigger for the system, something that actually makes all of the backend workflows run and start, right? We need a front end to be able to interact with the system, and we need a backend to be able to store all of the information. Now, for the front end, we are going to interact with the interface built by Lovable. I'm going to use Lovable in order to build the front end of the app. For the system part, we are going to build the system using Make.com, Make.com being the preferred automation platform for me. And for the backend, we are going to store all of the information in Supabase, because Supabase is really easily integrated with Lovable. And basically, you don't really need to have a lot of knowledge when it comes to backends, when it comes to databases, to actually put a specific database in place, because Lovable can do that for you. Now, how do we want this app to function? This is the brainstorming part of it though. You have to go in depth on the processes, on the intricacies of that specific job they are trying to replace. This is going to be basically the hardest part and the most important part in my opinion. When I built Estymates, I had this specific page built. As you can see, there's a lot of ideas thrown all around. These are the main important parts. For the pricing estimation points, so I was thinking, okay, I see everything in three lenses. I need a price estimation, I need a time estimation, and I need to actually build the proposals itself. How can I create a very, very accurate price estimation? So I was thinking, okay, I have to get into the head of an estimation person. And I was thinking all kinds of questions, and I was answering them using AI or using research by actually questioning a lot of people in the industry, right? You could have multiple tiers of pricing, right? You could create 5 different hourly rate tiers that are based on combining factors like complexity and other things. And the more things added, the higher the tier. So I was thinking about, okay, how should the AI think when he is going to come up with the pricing estimations? These are a lot of ideas that I just throw around. I put them on a piece of paper so that I can visually see them, right? Then one of the most important things in my opinion, which is maybe you're going to get to this point in a few hours when you already have an idea of how the system would look like, but you would have to sketch everything out when it comes to the system from the trigger all the way to your output, right? So in this particular instance, the trigger could be a Zoom meeting. Whenever we hop on a discovery call with our client, right? So the first meeting that we are going to have with our potential client, when that Zoom meeting ends, we are going to trigger the whole workflow because there is a module in make.com that can do that. So whenever we are going to close a meeting, everything is going to start. Okay, so we are going to list all of the transcripts that we are going to have from our meeting. So we get everything that we talked about. We get the last transcript. We get the guest email name and company name. We can parse that information into a JSON format so that then we can send the parsed information to Clay table. Once the lead has been enriched, we get the transcript again in the second scenario. So basically what we're trying to do here in the first part of it all is when the meeting ends, we are going to get all of the information. Maybe we discussed brief details about the project itself. Maybe we discussed on how he would like to run things, or many details about the project itself. We want to get all of that data, all of that information, right? We want to transcribe it and we want to save it somewhere. Also, we will want to get as much information about our client as possible. Maybe in one specific meeting, you are not able to get all of that information. Therefore, we are going to use an external app called Clay for enriching the lead, for getting more information about our client when it comes to his company, when it comes to the employees that he has, the niches, maybe some revenue numbers, even if we can find them. Now, once we have all of this information, the lead is going to be enriched, right? And the information is going to be sent to make.com. And data is going to be stored into a ClickUp. So we want to store everything. First of all, we want to store the transcript that we have in the first meeting. We want to store exactly the data that we know about our client. And we want to keep everything organized. For this particular instance, I used ClickUp as my CRM. So I stored everything into my CRM. And when it comes to enriching the lead, I was thinking, okay, what do we get here? We get the domain of the company that he has, his LinkedIn URL, website, employee count, all of this other data. And then we are going to send the relevant data to the time estimation OpenAI assistant and to the price estimation OpenAI assistant. So basically I have here 2 particular distinct assistants using OpenAI that are going to analyze all of this data and are going to come up with the estimations themselves. This being basically 2/3 of the whole job that we are trying to replace. What is left is just building the proposal, which is going to be a separate workflow, right? And here I just dumped a lot of ideas that I had, right? Like a problem is that we are relying on the client to have professional email. You're going really in depth on the tools and what you need as an input for the tools in order to get the best output out there. Time estimation points. We have to keep in mind past projects, calculate based on the amount of services required. Keep in mind the complexity of the service. All of these other points that we need to touch in order to be as explicit as possible so that we get an output that is of high quality. We ultimately need to replace a human that is getting paid $60,000 per year. So we need to do a really good job. And as you can see here, I started building everything. This was the first step. This was the first version of my app. You can see here, built in Lovable. I went really in depth with everything, what each button does, what each user experience workflow does, so on and so forth, right? Here is basically everything that I noted down when I was building, when I already started to build the app itself. Now, if we go back, before we continue, how should one act and approach such a project? A project that basically replaces a job entirely. Well, you're basically building a product, right? This app is a product. And this product, usually products, are being built by product managers that think about all of the systems, about all of the workflows, about how everything is going to be ran ultimately. And they are going to be doing this with the user experience team. So you have to put different hats. You have to put the hat of a product manager. You have to be a product manager, then to be a UX designer, and ultimately be a developer. Because this is the first part. We need to be UX designers and product managers in order to sketch everything out. It's really important to have a visual image of everything that you are going to build, right? So that then you can create a high quality output app from your AIs usually. Now, basically what the product managers and UX designer do is create the features and the whole concept and the systems, and then they pass it to the developers. And the developers are going to build the product. The hardest part, in my opinion, is this one. Why? Because yes, you could use AI in order to ideate on everything that you have, on your ideas, in order to brainstorm everything. You could do that. But you need to have a pretty systematic approach to thinking about how everything is going to work. And that is a bit more difficult, right? On the developer side, because we have all of these AI tools, it's not going to be that hard for us because the AI tools are going to do all the hard work. They are going to code everything. So basically what we need to know here for the developers part is how can we best use these AI apps? How can we prompt them the best? How can we give them everything that they need to output the highest quality app that we want, the highest quality product, right? So this is the way we should be thinking. And yeah, this is basically it. This was the process that I had when it came to having the idea, sketching the systems, and then getting to building everything. So now let me walk you through the app itself, how it looks like right now when I ended everything, it actually works, and how I came up to all of these results. So here is Estymates. This is the app that I've built with Lovable. It looks a little bit like this. I want it to be as simple as possible to use for the design studio. So basically we have 4 tabs here. We have the new project tab where everything is going to happen, right? We have the clients tab, which is going to be like a database where we store all of the information about our clients. We have their name, the client's name, the email, and enriched data if we have about them. So like past customers, team size, tech stack, a lot of data that we can crunch and then manipulate in order to get better outputs, right? We have the estimates table where, again, we are going to save all of the estimations that we have created. We have the status of the estimations. So all the way from awaiting approval to the estimation being approved to the proposal actually being created and sent to our client. We have them again, the client name, the project name, the estimation summary, so the time and the price. When was created, we can actually filter these. We can actually view these estimations more in depth. We can edit them. We can send the proposals. So this app does perfectly the job of an estimation person. And you can actually open proposals here, see how they look like, the deliverables, estimated time frame, estimated total, and a bit of details on how everything is going to go when it comes to the payment. So yeah, we really went in depth when it comes to how everything is going to work. Now, in order to build this app Estymates, as I said, we need the system itself. And the system itself, I built it on make.com. What I will advise you is you create a new folder here if you use make.com and store all of the projects, all of the basically different distinct workflows in that specific folder. You want to be as organized as possible, especially when you are building an app, because you never know when you are going to have a bug, when something is going to malfunction, and then you need to know exactly where that malfunction actually is in your process so that you can fix it. This is my Estimates Hub folder, and here I actually organized all of the workflows based on how would they go when you are going to run this app from A to Z. So step 0, step 1, step 2, 3, and 4. The first workflow is going to be an estimates lead enrichment. This is going to be when we are going to, if you go here, you have this new client section. You are going to put the client name, you're going to put the company name and his email, right? Based on these specific data, we are going to, when clicking this button, add new client, we are going to activate this workflow, which is really, really simple. Well, we only have the webhook that gets all of the information from the app and transfers them here. And we have a make a request module that basically sends all of that data to a Clay table, Clay being the app that I chose in order to enrich all of the data. And that Clay table is going to automatically send the data over here to our client section and is going to create a new client here, right? So this is basically the first step that we want. We want to actually have the client in our system. Then the second action that we need to do and we want to do is to actually extract the text and the details from the files and from the input that we have given our app. What does that mean? Once you have an existing client here, right, whatever our client is going to be, you have two options when it comes to inputting the project details so that we can manipulate and create estimations based on them. You can actually get the transcription from a meeting that you have and paste it here, right? Or you can manually write some project descriptions. You can go in with as much detail as possible, right? And here we can add a maximum of 5 files, which can be PDFs, PNGs, or JPEGs. Usually if you have a very big project, your clients are going to send you PDFs of the brief for the specific project, how they want it to be built, right? Therefore, you can input that PDF brief directly here. Or you can have screenshots of conversations that you have with your client on email, WhatsApp, whatever, and you can put them in here too. And basically what this workflow does, number one, is going to extract all of the data from our documents that we have inputted in our images and from our project estimations. So basically everything here, as you see, is going to be activated by the webhook and the data is going to be sent to this webhook. And we have 2 paths. If we have the only project details, because you can only choose to put a transcript here and that's basically it. If we only have that, it's going to go here, it's going to save them in a database here in make.com and it's going to activate Flow 2. Or if we have files that we need to parse and extract data from, we are going to again store everything in the database in here in make.com so that we have everything stored in this app locally so that we can easily manipulate the data when we want. We have all of these options, right? We can go and extract text from images. So basically we have images, we get the text and the data from them. We can extract data from PDFs using I Love PDF. And then ultimately we are going to just store everything and activate Flow 2. Flow 2 being this specific flow, which is creating the estimations. Once we have extracted all of the text and all of the data from those documents or from the transcription that we have inputted, right? We are going to get the data from our make database, right? So we stored everything in the make database. We are going to get it out here in this module. And we are going to call 2 assistants, the time estimation and the price estimations that we have created using OpenAI. These are going to create 2 outputs with the time estimation, the price estimation, right? And then we are going to feed everything into a create a completion module that basically what does is he creates a proposal presentation for the studio, right? That is then going to be sent back to our app in this form. It is going to look like this, waiting approval. And you have all of this data right here. Steps for the studio, project objective, if we use the discount or not, tech stack, whatever. Now, when it comes to the flow itself, these are the most important modules out of the app, literally, because they create the estimations themselves. They need to be as accurate as possible. And I did this by going into OpenAI and actually creating 2 OpenAI assistants. One is the design project time estimation and one is the design project price estimation. We have here system instructions. We went over the role and the purpose, core knowledge base that he has, critical restrictions and guidelines, all of these steps. We want to be as specific as possible when we are working with OpenAI assistants and with AI assistants in general, because the more accurate and the more detailed you're going to be into how you want him to work, the better the output he's going to give, of course. And we also need a database. And the database is going to look like this. It's just a Google Docs file with even more instructions and more in-depth data on how he should work, right? We have the overview and purpose, core data for pricing. We are going to tell him exactly how to think when it comes to creating the pricing estimations and the time estimations. You can even add a table with rates of your current employees and freelancers that you are using, you can go in as much detail as possible. You're going to download this and you're just going to feed it to the assistant itself and tell him that, okay, you have this knowledge base, you have this Google Docs document, and you are going to learn from it and then create all of these estimations based on the data that is there. Now, once we have created the estimations themselves here, we have them here, and the next step would be to actually approve it. So if you go waiting approval, we are going to click approve proposal, and we are going to go into this section. By approving the proposal, by clicking that button, by the way, that is going to activate scenario number 3, which is send PDF proposal to dashboard. Now, what this third workflow does is basically it gets all of the data that we have here, right? All of the data that we have created when we have created the estimation itself, and it's going to put it nicely into a proposal that looks a little bit like this. It's just a rough project quote that we can automatically send to our client fast. Now, the workflow itself looks like this. We get the information. We are going to create the proposal using an OpenAI module again. We are going to use a Google Docs template that we are going to populate with the data from this module, and then we are going to send it and store it into our Superbase database and send it back to our app where we can see it right here, or we can download it, right? Once we approved it, we can then send it to our client directly, that specific proposal. And that works like this. We are going to have a fourth workflow. So when we are going to click, if you go here, when we are going to click send proposal, this scenario is going to be activated, which is just going to get the proposal itself from our Superbase database. Is going to download it and is going to send it via an email. The subject is going to be proposal for the client name, and we're just going to send the proposal itself. Really easy, really fast. This whole workflow from A to Z, from actually creating a new client to estimating a project to creating the quote to sending it, takes around 4 to 5 minutes. This job could take a few days for a person. So it is even cheaper than a person, because you don't pay $60,000 per year to run this. I think the whole cost is around 15-20 bucks per month, right? It's really, really cheap to run everything, and it's much, much faster. So it's a win-win situation for the studio itself. And yeah, this is how I built Estymates, and this is how I thought about everything when building this app. The thinking process itself is really similar to how I would approach other apps. This is episode number 2 of my series on how to automate a digital business. In the first episode, we automated the onboarding process of onboarding a client, right? In this video, we basically automated, if you think about Estymates, we automated how to create the proposals for a project and to send them to your client, or we just analyzed how you could replace a specific job role in your business or in other people's businesses using AI systems and tools. Guys, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.